The United Kingdom shall no longer provide armed police protection to the Duke of Sussex. The decision is final, and no further reassessment will be entertained. Buckingham Palace made this explosive announcement on Christmas morning, the 25th of December 2025, at 9 a.m. GMT. With this thunderous declaration, the monarchy obliterated any lingering illusions of reconciliation overnight. For years, the royal family had carefully tiptoed around the storm surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, issuing measured statements while court appeals dragged on, silently enduring global headlines that blurred the line between constitutional reality and self-fashioned celebrity myth. But on the 25th of December 2025, King Charles II broke the silence, not with subtlety, not with metaphor, but with unmistakable authority. The decision came as an unambiguous endorsement of a legal ruling that severs Harry's final tether to institutional power, the right to taxpayer-funded armed royal security. In the UK, this move is more than legal. It is symbolic, constitutional, and absolute. Insiders confirmed the timing was deliberate, released from Clarence House just hours before the King joined Prince William, Princess Catherine, and Princess Anne at St. George's Chapel for the Christmas Day service, in what observers described as a coordinated, intentional, and historically unprecedented display. The King then appeared beside his heir, placing his hand on William's shoulder before the world's cameras as if passing an invisible scepter. The moment shocked even seasoned royal watchers inside the private chapel reception. King Charles reportedly unveiled the legendary Oriental Circuit crown, not for Camilla, but for Catherine, Princess of Wales, a crown once worn by Queen Victoria and long held in ceremonial reserve, was officially entrusted to Catherine in what the palace described as a gesture of future female sovereignty. A royal statement followed. Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, shall henceforth hold ceremonial stewardship of the Oriental crown in trust for the future of the House of Windsor. Buckingham Palace, 25th of December 2025, 1:14 p.m. This was not merely a moment of glamour, it was a deliberate, unmistakable message. The future is no longer contested. There is one royal court, and it belongs to William and Catherine. All others, especially the one Harry was rumoured to be building in parallel, are now shadows. This hardline pivot comes after months of whispers that Harry had lobbied the newly elected Labour government for a reassessment of his personal threat level, hoping to regain entitlement to elite protection through the Royal and VIP Executive Committee for a brief window in mid-December. Headlines in UK and US outlets suggested progress. Leaked reports cited informal conversations between Harry's legal team and Home Office representatives, focusing on Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who remained open to procedural review. But on the 23rd of December, 2 days before the King's statement, Rake issued its final ruling, a resounding rejection of reassessment. Hours later, the palace confirmed it would not only support the ruling, but codify it into royal policy permanently. This isn't about risk assessment, it's about royal status. Prince Harry is no longer entitled to crown privileges. Senior royal correspondents and the Times insiders now confirm what many had suspected. King Charles personally lobbied against Harry's reassessment. Behind closed doors, far from neutral, the monarch intervened decisively through constitutional channels to make the ruling irreversible. One palace aide, speaking anonymously to The Telegraph, said bluntly, "Charles waited. He gave Harry every chance to walk away gracefully. That grace expired. This is no delay tactic. This is the final door slamming shut." Indeed, Palace Communications this week described Harry and Meghan's continued use of royal connections for charity events, promotional tours, and their Orwell Foundation branding as a form of institutional ambiguity that needed clarification for both the British public and global audiences. The same statement confirmed that Harry and Meghan's Orwell Foundation will no longer be allowed to use royal images, titles, or seals of legitimacy, or present projects as supported by British royal patronages. They are barred from promoting global initiatives using their former Sussex titles in association with UK-based diplomacy or Commonwealth charity networks. This ruling is a seismic blow to the couple's media and philanthropy ecosystem. which relied heavily on the blurred duality between royal departure and retained public fascination in the US entertainment market. This move may weaken the Ark Oil brand significantly, especially among donors, investors, and corporate collaborators who once valued implied royal access. While Harry's royal brand collapses, Princess Catherine's standing has never been stronger. A new royal website launched quietly on the 20th of December, The Crown's Compass. It presents her as a steward of legacy and a bridge to future sovereignty. Her work carries both moral and ceremonial continuity of the Crown. The site, built under the authority of the Lord Chamberlain's office, features pages dedicated to her charity work, early childhood initiatives, and most notably her new ceremonial guardianship of the Oriental Circuit. The subtext is unmistakable. Catherine is not merely a consort in waiting. She is now a symbol of royal continuity in her own right. In the coming weeks, the palace is expected to release a revised patronage map redistributing former Sussex charities to William, Catherine, Anne, and Edward, publish legal notices codifying royal title restrictions globally, and initiate a full audit of unauthorized charitable claims made in the name of the royal family between 2020 and 2025. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's reactions, along with the suspected involvement of Prince Andrew in facilitating Meghan's early entry into royal life, will be explored in Part 2. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the most dramatic power consolidation in modern Windsor history. In the aftermath of King Charles's landmark decision to end Prince Harry's state-funded security and dissolve all Sussex royal privileges, another story is now surfacing, one stretching back to 2016, that may explain how the monarchy lost control of its own house. Prince Andrew, long overshadowed by scandal, is now at the centre of growing suspicions that he played a covert role in facilitating Meghan Markle's rise within the royal family, not out of loyalty, but from resentment, rivalry, and revenge. Investigative journalists close to the royal household's internal review report that Andrew personally recommended a private legal advisor, Lucy Hargrove, to assist in early background checks for Meghan during her courtship with Harry. Hargrove, known to have worked for Andrew during his frequent Middle East charity engagements, was quietly pushed into palace circles when Meghan began appearing publicly with Harry in late 2016. It wasn't flagged as unusual at the time, one palace aide said, but in hindsight, it was the first crack in a firewall that should never have failed. What raises eyebrows today is that Meghan was reportedly granted a far smoother integration process into royal operations than other outsiders, including receiving early briefings on protocol and travel logistics, which were often delayed or denied, even to aristocratic newcomers. For years, Prince Andrew was known inside palace walls to harbour deep private doubts about his brother Charles's capacity to lead. He once reportedly told a family member that Charles is a thinker, not a ruler. Mother loved him, but she never trusted him with the empire, a confidential remark dating back to 2015. At the time, it sounded like bitter sibling rivalry. Today, those words land with chilling relevance. Andrew long saw himself as the forgotten son, a decorated war veteran, once a public favourite, and in his own mind, a more suitable monarch than his introspective, emotionally distant elder brother. Royal sources say that belief hardened into resentment after Queen Elizabeth II stripped him of royal patronages in 2022 following scandal. What followed was not withdrawal, but quiet calculation. It was in Meghan Markle, an outsider, a divorced actress, and a fast-rising media figure, that Andrew allegedly saw opportunity. Not romance, but disruption. Someone who could pull Harry away, blur the hierarchy, and destabilise Charles's court from the inside. At least two senior members of the royal household, Sir Clive Alderton and Lady Susan Hussey, raised early alarms about Meghan's entry process being abnormally fast-tracked. Internal briefing notes from as early as March 2017 flagged concerns over Meghan's aggressive media footprint, prior political activism, and lack of alignment with royal neutrality. Those warnings were overridden. One memo reportedly stated, "HRH Andrew has personally vouched, proceed without obstruction." That line, now infamous, came from a redacted palace document dated March 14, 2017. At the time, Charles was preoccupied with his transition toward kingship and delegated day-to-day integration decisions to court staff. That delegation is now viewed internally as a catastrophic lapse in judgment. Princess Anne, known for her discipline-first mindset, initially stayed neutral during the 2018 to 2020 Sussex turmoil. She watched, she waited. By early 2021, Anne had turned decisively against both Andrew and Meghan. In a rare confrontation at Balmoral, she reportedly told Andrew directly, "You brought her in. You'll live with what it's done to this family." After Queen Elizabeth II's death in 2022, Anne became the loudest internal voice urging Charles to draw a hard line and stop allowing royal status to be used as currency for branding and media games. Queen Camilla remained publicly distant but privately alert. Aides describe her stance toward Meghan as cordial yet clipped. Sources say Camilla was among the first to warn Charles in mid-2023 that Harry was planning a UK return via security litigation. She reportedly said, "He's not coming back to protect his family. He's coming back to reclaim a throne that never belonged to him." While Charles's Christmas declaration reset the rules, insiders say it was Prince William who pushed hardest behind palace walls. William was reportedly furious when he learned Meghan had reactivated UK media contacts to float reconciliation narratives. While Harry framed his return around family safety, William's response was blunt. "You don't undermine the crown from Montecito all year, then fly back expecting a motorcade." Sources confirm William personally oversaw the reassignment of former Sussex-linked charities. The Invictus Games Foundation was absorbed under the Royal Commonwealth Veterans Trust. SmartWorks UK transitioned to Princess Sophie. The Hub Community Kitchen folded into the Windsor Food Security Network under Catherine's leadership. By freezing Harry out of security, titles and charitable infrastructure, and by reviving historic regalia to empower Catherine, Charles wasn't settling a feud. He was drawing a line. A senior Commonwealth ambassador summed it up plainly. "This isn't about who wears which tiara, it's about who speaks for Britain." The next phase of fallout didn't stay in Britain. By December 2025, the rupture between the House of Windsor and the Sussexes had turned deeply moral. As Charles severed Harry from security, titles, and legitimacy, another unresolved issue exploded into public view: the increasingly controversial relationship between Meghan Markle and her estranged father, Thomas Markle. What began as sympathy-driven headlines in American tabloids quickly collapsed into one of the most damaging credibility crises Meghan had faced since leaving the UK. On December 24, 2025, hours before Catherine hosted the Together at Christmas carol service, US outlets claimed Meghan had reached out to her ailing father after reports of his leg amputation surgery in the Philippines. The timing raised instant red flags. Within 24 hours, the story unraveled. Family members confirmed no call, no letter, no verified contact had occurred. Investigative journalists later established the alleged outreach email was sent to an address inactive for over 5 years, while Thomas was hospitalised and unable to access communications. British commentators quickly reclassified the episode as a manufactured reconciliation narrative, not healing, but image management. Palace sources confirmed the incident triggered an internal briefing on Christmas Day, where the phrase ethical incompatibility was repeatedly used. Unlike past controversies dismissed as media friction, this one cut to character. A former royal communications advisor said it plainly. "You cannot claim victimhood while exploiting a disabled parent for narrative control. That crosses a line." The contrast with Catherine was unavoidable. Raised in a close-knit family, her parents stayed out of the spotlight entirely. No interviews, no memoirs, no monetization. When her brother faced struggles years earlier, the palace response was silence, protection, and discretion. By late December 2025, editors at The Times and Le Figaro framed the issue not as popularity, but moral fitness. One editorial concluded, "This is no longer about image, it is about proximity to power." Internal assessments circulated after Christmas formally categorized Meghan as structurally incompatible with royal service, a designation rarely used and never before applied to a former duchess. Reasons cited included repeated use of private family relationships for leverage, strategic timing against royal events, commercial framing of reconciliation, and inability to operate within ethical constraints. This designation justified the final severing of all symbolic ties between the Sussex brand and the monarchy. Notably absent during the controversy was Prince Harry's voice. Sources say he was advised not to comment, especially after his security appeal failed. In Britain, that silence was widely read as weakness. A senior aide to Prince William reportedly said, "A husband who won't protect the truth inside his own family cannot be trusted with the crown's shadow." The impact spread across the United States. Philanthropic partners quietly paused relationships. Hollywood agencies advised distance from royal-adjacent moral controversies. What was once Meghan's greatest strength, control of narrative, had become her biggest liability. By the evening of December 26, 2025, palace insiders confirmed no reconciliation paths remained open. The moral judgment was settled, Catherine stood as custodian of continuity, and Meghan came to symbolise disruption without restraint, as a monarchy fighting for legitimacy in the modern age drew its final boundary. That distinction mattered more than bloodlines or love stories ever could. On the morning of December 26, 2025, Clarence House released a follow-up communication that left no space for interpretation or negotiation. Using clipped constitutional language, the King's Office confirmed that the Crown had concluded its full review of all royal associations following the Sussex departure, bringing the matter to a definitive close. As of January 1, 2026, no entity founded, operated or represented by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex shall retain any royal endorsement, inference or affiliation. The decision is final. With that single paragraph, the monarchy formally severed all remaining symbolic, charitable and public ties with Archewell, the non-profit and media venture Harry and Meghan built as a hybrid of philanthropy and brand architecture. This was not simply a rejection of two individuals, it was the structural unveiling of a new monarchy, a Windsor reset that consolidates power exclusively around the heirs, clears the haze of celebrity distraction, and redefines the role of royalty in a fragmented global media age. The implications for Archewell are immediate and far-reaching. Founded in 2020, the foundation had long benefited from a carefully maintained halo effect, subtle references to Diana, language echoing the values of the monarchy, and imagery designed to imply continuity without stating it outright. That ambiguity is now legally and symbolically over. Effective immediately, Archewell must cease using the Sussex coat of arms across all platforms. The organisation is prohibited from using descriptors such as royally inspired, Duchess-backed, or Windsor-endorsed. UK-based charitable partners previously associated with the foundation, including Grenfell-related initiatives and early childhood programmes, are to be transitioned under the new Windsor Unity framework led by Catherine. This final action delivers a crippling symbolic blow to Harry and Meghan's platform in the United States. Without royal cues, their positioning shifts from global envoys to celebrity activists, a critical distinction in elite charity, political and corporate circles. One former Netflix executive put it bluntly, "No title, no crown tie, no palace proximity that changes the game overnight." While Archewell's privileges collapsed in public view, a separate and deeply private ceremony unfolded behind Windsor's gates. In a rarely used chamber beneath St. George's Hall, King Charles convened a closed-door session with William, Catherine and Princess Anne. According to insiders, it was there that the Oriental circlet, designed for Queen Victoria in 1853, was formally entrusted to Catherine, not as an heirloom, but as a symbol of transfer and authority. Catherine was named Ceremonial Crown Steward of the East, a title revived for the first time in 112 years. What makes this moment historic is that the circlet was designed exclusively for reigning queens or consorts. It was never intended for a Princess of Wales. Historian Dr. Eliza March explained, "He is not waiting for Catherine to become queen. He is making her the monarchy's face now." The message to Britain and the world was unmistakable. Catherine will represent the crown in global affairs where Camilla cannot. At the same time, the royal household began implementing what insiders call the Sovereign Operating Code, a restructuring that consolidates royal duties under 3 defined pillars. Prince William now holds command over constitutional engagements, state visits, and military representation. Catherine leads cultural diplomacy, early childhood policy, education initiatives, and international charity relations, particularly across the Commonwealth. Princess Anne and Prince Edward oversee legacy institutions, royal archives, veteran affairs, and internal audits of charitable operations. This framework is a direct response to the chaos of the freelance royal era pioneered by Harry and Meghan. The King's decree makes one rule clear: no member of the royal family may act autonomously while retaining royal branding. There will be no parallel courts, no mixed messaging, and no soft power leakage. With Andrew neutralised, Meghan discredited, and Harry locked out of state protection, royal historians quietly compare Charles's moves to Elizabeth I's consolidation of the Tudor court. Commentator Penelope Radnor summarised it best. Charles has ended a decade of ambiguity. He's drawing bright lines. It's not only strategic, it's personal. In the next phase, attention turned sharply to the emotional and reputational fallout for Harry and Meghan, particularly Meghan's failed father reconciliation narrative and the public backlash it triggered in both Britain and the United States. On December 22, 2025, just hours before the Princess of Wales hosted the beloved Together at Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey, a startling headline swept transatlantic media. Meghan Markle reaches out to estranged father after 7 years of silence. The story appeared engineered for sympathy and redemption, but within 48 hours, the narrative collapsed. Investigations revealed a PR fabrication riddled with inconsistencies, technical errors, and evasive confirmations. Analysts believe the timing was deliberate. The claims surfaced the same day Catherine and her children appeared on national television during one of the monarchy's most watched goodwill events. Royal reporters, including Dan Wootton and Camilla Tominey, described the episode as a classic misdirection strategy designed to fracture headlines. It was a slow hijack, said one palace source, a reminder that Meghan still sees the royal calendar as competition. The story unravelled rapidly. Thomas Markle Jr. and other family members confirmed no contact occurred. The alleged outreach consisted of an email sent to an inactive address unused for over 5 years. That account had been deactivated during Thomas Sr.'s earlier hospitalisation and was no longer accessible. Compounding the issue, Meghan's representatives refused to specify the date or method of contact, issuing only vague statements citing privacy concerns. The British press responded aggressively. In a rare rebuttal, the Daily Mail confirmed through journalist Caroline Graham, who maintained direct contact with Thomas Markle, that his phone number had not changed and no outreach occurred. Samantha Markle delivered a blistering public response. "This is PR garbage. If she cared, she'd fly him to a hospital and pay his bills. Instead, she emails a dead inbox and calls it redemption." The quote went viral, amplifying backlash across UK and US media outlets. Rather than restoring credibility, the episode reopened old wounds and reignited criticism surrounding authenticity and family accountability. The contrast with Catherine became unavoidable. 2 women whose opposing approaches to privacy, loyalty, and restraint now define the royal conversation, and whose diverging paths continue to shape how power, character, and continuity are judged inside the modern monarchy. Catherine is widely seen as dignified, guarded, and deeply family-focused, and she has never publicly dissected her relatives or dragged old disputes into the spotlight. She doesn't cash in on pain, and she doesn't trade privacy for clicks. This year's Christmas Carol event reflected that clearly, centering on veteran families, foster care, children, and young musicians, all delivered without a single headline engineered to boost her personal image or brand. Meghan, by contrast, is increasingly viewed by critics and moderates alike as someone who releases emotional narratives at carefully timed moments, usually when competing headlines threaten to steal attention or shift public sympathy. A UK government poll released on December 24th showed 71% of respondents said Catherine best represents royal integrity, while 68% believed Meghan's outreach to Thomas Markle was opportunistic. Only 13% viewed the gesture as sincere, a gap that's hard to ignore. Sources close to the US media landscape confirm that Netflix executives and Spotify investors have quietly begun reconsidering future partnerships with Meghan, especially as her image becomes harder to manage and less commercially predictable. There's only so many times a story can be rebranded before audiences stop buying the narrative altogether. One senior executive in Los Angeles put it bluntly behind closed doors, and even long-time high-profile allies like Oprah Winfrey and Serena Williams have noticeably stepped back from the latest Markle storyline, choosing not to comment, repost, or publicly defend it. Buckingham Palace issued no direct statement, but insiders say Queen Camilla was furious at the attempt to overshadow Catherine's event, and Princess Anne reportedly called the PR move crass beyond measure. King Charles, as expected, stayed publicly silent, but his actions spoke louder than any statement ever could. With the Windsor reset fully underway, Meghan is no longer a rogue duchess playing optics from the sidelines. She is now an outsider, formally, morally, and publicly acknowledged as such. The final chapter of this series turns to what followed next, as the royal line of succession was sealed, and as Charles, William, and Catherine moved to govern a leaner, sharper, more disciplined monarchy. Precisely at 6 p.m. on December 26th, 2025, a gold-embossed communiqué was posted on the gates of Buckingham Palace. Short, formal, and unmistakably final, it read, "Let it be known by order of the Sovereign, and in accordance with the Privy Seal, the House of Windsor reaffirms its succession and its service. The crown shall pass solely through the heirs of His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales. No claims, titles, or associations beyond this line shall be retained or revived with this declaration." With that single document, King Charles III did what no modern monarch had dared to do. He sealed the line of succession, not just through blood, but through conduct, loyalty, and constitutional alignment. This wasn't just about lineage, it was about identity. Alongside the symbolic decree, palace legal teams finalised sweeping administrative changes effective January 1st, 2026. All public-facing references to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were removed from official royal and UK government platforms. No future seating plans, ceremonial roles, or state protocols will include Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, or their children at official royal events, except under strictly private family circumstances. The sovereign grant audit was updated to reflect zero obligations or entitlements owed to the Sussex household. A formal letter was also sent to international embassies and Commonwealth leaders confirming that Harry and Meghan hold no representative status for the UK or the Crown. For the first time since 2020, the separation was no longer symbolic, it was constitutional. There is no path back. Over the past 3 years, as the Sussex brand drifted deeper into Hollywood's polished chaos, Prince William and Princess Catherine quietly built something sturdier, a monarchy rooted in service, clarity, and generational trust. The newly circulated royal calendar tells the story plainly. William will lead all foreign state visits in 2026, including Canada, Kenya, and Japan. Catherine will head the newly formed Crown Trust for Early Life, partnering directly with 11 Commonwealth nations. Princess Anne and Prince Edward will rotate leadership of ceremonial institutions while safeguarding ethical conduct and financial transparency. As one senior palace advisor said, "We are no longer in the age of celebrity proximity. We are in the age of institutional renewal." Despite the scale of these decisions, there was no dramatic response from Harry and Meghan, no press conference, no legal counterstrike. Instead, a quiet post appeared on the Archewell website at midnight. "We remain committed to compassion, impact, and forward progress as a family and as global citizens. Thank you for your continued support." The tone was muted, corporate, and worlds away from the fire seen in the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, or past grievances. The fight was over, and the relevance was fading fast. Sources in Montecito say Meghan has shifted her focus toward a personal lifestyle brand, while Harry is considering a new veterans project that may no longer use the Invictus name. The titles are gone, the semi-royal permissions are gone. What remains is reputation, fragile and disconnected from the crown. Earlier today at Sandringham, King Charles privately presented Prince William with the restored Great Windsor Key. The golden artifact, traditionally held in the monarch's private study, symbolises responsibility, not dominance. Charles's words, recorded only in the royal logbook, were later shared with select press. "I am not immortal, nor shall I reign forever. My duty was to restore the line, to prepare the soil. The tree will grow through you. Let it be strong." The year 2025 will be remembered as a reckoning, not just for titles, but for choosing service over sentiment and continuity over chaos. The monarchy has been reset, the lines redrawn, and the future clarified. There are no blurred roles left, no ghost courts in Montecito, only the crown, only the Windsor line rising steadily with William and Catherine, unified, grounded, and unshaken. If you followed this series to the end, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and we'll be tracking every development as the new royal era unfolds through 2026.